Hi, everyone. Welcome to another Blackfish Gallery interview. We're really excited to present another evening of speaking with artists from the Be About Love Festival and the Love Politik One World Indivisible exhibition that we've got going on this month in October 2020. So let me introduce you to my guests. We've got Christopher and Susanne Shotola-Hardt with us in the top, and then we've got Angennette Escobar and Edie Overturf and Olivia Aubry. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for being here tonight.
Thanks.
So I'm just going to get started, and we're going to start with Christopher because Christopher is one of our members and he is one of the curators of this show. He is also a performer. He's like triple star here. So Christopher, would you tell us a little bit about your performance for the festival?
Sure. Well, you are looking at half of the quartet that makes the progressive folk ensemble Bug Toast. And Susanne is our accordion player, and I play different stringed instruments, and we both sing. And we play with the brothers, Dave Andrews and Mark Andrews. And they are both also string players. And so on a lot of the material, string players kind of mix it up where, sometimes I'm playing bass, sometimes I'm playing this instrument you see on the wall behind me. It's a gazook. It's a guitar that's been converted into a bouzouki. So I love it. Well, it's
Tell us more about that.
Originally a Greek instrument. It has 3 sets of double strings. And then in the late 60s, the Celtic musicians got a hold of that and they adapted it. They made larger sound box and they added a set of strings. And like a guitar, you can have lots of different tunings. You can have open tunings where you tune it into a chord basically, or you can leave it in its standard tuning, which is in perfect fifths. So I grew up playing cello. I studied cello for years and years and years. And all of those shapes, all of those fingerings, all of those scales, everything is just like ingrained in me, and I just love it. And it's got a cool ethnic sound. So
cool.
And our ensemble is called Bug Toast. And for this festival, we were actually going to play 2 concerts because we have 2 recordings coming out this fall. We recorded them so that they would coincide with this festival. One of them is called Be About Love, and it is pretty folky in that it doesn't have all of our drums, where we're coming off of being a sextet with my father-in-law and brother-in-law as our percussionists. So for the last several months, we've been a quartet with just the 4 instrumentalists. So we have a folky Be About Love, and when we play on Friday night, we'll be playing several selections from that. And then the other recording that we were going to release and perform is called Refugee Cycle, What Would We Do? So I'm the son and grandson of war refugees, and those are some intense stories that I've spent a lifetime processing, and I feel like the topic comes to a head now with the national dialogue often being very xenophobic and not very empathetic of these people who are needing to leave their homes and their homelands. So through the arc of my family's story, I've been working on these pieces for years. And I'm hoping that it personalizes one family's story and kind of goes from the starting inkling that we're not safe here and we have to leave. And if things go down, what's our response going to be? Are we going to fight back? Are we going to be angry, hateful? Are we going to be loving? Will we find a home? And then the launch into the planning of it. What are we going to do? How do we stay safe? If we get separated, where do we meet? And then the actual leaving and being, those wagon wheels turning and everybody just going, 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 don't stop, don't sleep, go, go, go. And so anyway, there's some an intensity there, but it ends in some sweetness. Well, we wanted to play that in the festival, but it's pretty demanding music and it would take a lot of rehearsing just to be ready to play that. And when we went into COVID, out went our being able to play together. It's so sad. I know Olivia is gonna relate to that a lot. We just want to play together, but since March, and we recorded both of those albums, Be About Love and The Refugee Cycle, the weekend before quarantine.
Oh, wow.
I can't believe we made it in time.
Yeah.
And but since then, we've only been able to play 3 times together. We practiced out in the garden twice, and then the third time we played together, we recorded our set. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the hottest day of the year, but we think that the set that we were able to present for our viewers for Friday night, we think people are going to really like it. And Christopher's piece in the window, the Be About Love neon, is actually like the cover of the CD. And so not only does Christopher write music and make the art, but he also designs our CDs. So you could just imagine, and the booklets. So you could imagine that it's going to be really nice to look through those booklets, and it's going to be exciting. So
Awesome. We're really looking forward to hearing your performance this Friday night. It's great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Awesome. Well, Angennette, you're up next. I am sitting right in front of your piece in front of me here. A few small squares that make up the cross piece here. I'm going to share my screen so we can get a glimpse at the details too. Those viewers at home can see more of the details, and we'd love for you to share more about the piece.
You bet. So I am an artist and art educator. So I teach art at Wilsonville High School, as well as make my own art and exhibit in and around Oregon, Washington, Texas, California, depending on where there's a show that I can join. And I was really excited about the Be About Love Festival and the Love Politik show because I felt like it really, it kind of sums up my work that I've been doing for the past, 5 years. I've been exploring themes of growing up in South Texas, and I am Mexican American, and I come from a very religious family and Catholic family, Latino Catholic family, and have really been struggling with the way that I feel like my culture has been portrayed in the media, and and by the government. And I wanted to make work about kind of the beauty of my heritage, as well as kind of the, I don't know, trying to kind of break apart some of the constructions that have been created around my culture and and our relationship, Americans' relationship with the border of Mexico, because it is my home. That's where I grew up. That's where I was raised, and it's always been my home. I was born in New Mexico. My mom is half Mescalero Apache and Mexican, and then my family on my father's side is also Mexican. However, we are not immigrants. So my family has been living in South Texas for going on 10 generations, and before Texas was even Texas. And so Texas became Texas and part of the United States as a result of the Mexican-American War, and then we were instantaneously American citizens. So this piece is really about like all of those things, but also I call it prayers for the people, because they each of the 7 pieces that form the cross are individual prayers, kind of like praying for miracles. I use a lot of milagros in my work, and I use a lot of, I like to kind of play around with kind of folk art representations in my work as well. And I've chosen to create these pieces in this cruciform because it is part of my culture. And there are 7 because that is a very special number in the Catholic faith. And the number 7 actually represents grace and empathy. So I've created 7 little prayers. And when I say that I'm Mexican Catholic, that's a very special thing, because that is kind of an infusion of not only Catholicism, but also of curandismo. So it's like the indigenous, folk healing medicine of my family and my culture. And so they're kind of like these almost little offerings. That's why I'm using hands in them. The hands sort of like are in positions, of like, catching or stopping, or we all know what this means, right? When we hold this up like that. Or, kind of extending a hand out. And they're like really prayers that a lot of division that has occurred in the United States right now, kind of find that we find some way to mend them and to heal them, from the way that we talk about each other, our speech, our thoughts, to our institutions and how we analyze them and think about them and rebuild them in a way that is unifying instead of dividing. And so that's really, what that piece is about. When I first made this piece, I made this piece before, but I made it tiny. I don't know, there was this period of time when I wanted to make everything really, really little. And as the years have gone by, I've wanted to make them bigger and bigger. And actually I was talking to Christopher, and I would like to make these like giant pieces. And because I feel like I don't know, maybe they need to be more easily seen. Maybe they need to be more prominent, because right now they're very personal and very small. They are growing, you know, maybe it's me, maybe it's like some of my own like little fears, like opening up and showing the world, you know, what I'm thinking about. So I could see these getting much, much larger, maybe even my size. I don't know. And so this was just like the perfect show for this work to go into. And yeah, very personal work to me, but at the same time, thoughts and feelings that I want to share.
I love it. I think it's really beautiful how we were just talking before we started recording here about, you know, feeling so much angst and frustration and anger and hurt and pain and all that. And so I think it's really beautiful how you've channeled that all into the work, and what came out is this, this just really intimate and delicate lifting up people in prayers. It's really lovely. And it's really fits well within the show, the idea of, yes, we're focusing on what is going on in our country right now, what's going on in the world right now, and all the tension, but that we want to emanate and spread love and light. And so really, really is a outstanding example of that, for sure.
Thank you. I feel like empathy, when I think about grace and empathy, I think about how we get to grace and empathy is through understanding, and like nobody can understand anybody if we're shouting at each other, or we're throwing things at each other, or we're like it really has to be about understanding each other. And I feel like the best way to understand each other is to tell our stories, and through music and through poetry and through art making and through dance and theater. And so I feel like the arts are like this wonderful vehicle. We have this amazing language that we could speak through, and we need to get more of it out there and share more of it. And this show is perfect for that, because it's, you're all doing such an amazing job to spread it. There's so many ways to interface with the show. You could go to First Thursday, you could drop by the gallery, you can go online and look at things online. You can access the archives. It's just, I feel like you're doing a wonderful job at this, and it makes me very happy.
Thank you. We really do hope that people will come down and visit us. We are open on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays from 11 to 5, and you can come down and check out the gallery, certainly, and Angennette's piece, like up close, and all the details is really worth coming down to see for yourself in person. Thank you so much for sharing with us.
Thank you for including me.
We're really happy to have you. So next up, we have Edie Overturf, who is also one of our members and is exhibiting in the show. And she's got a piece, and I'm going to share my screen so you can all see it.
Thank you. I am a Blackfish member, like Kristin said, but it's been a year exactly now. So it's been a strange year because I only had about 3 months as a member before COVID hit. But it's been a great community to support each other through the challenges that we've had as a gallery. I'm also an educator. I work at Mount Hood Community College, and I teach drawing and printmaking. And printmaking is my jam. It's been my jam since I was like 19. I've done sculpture and neon and lots of other things, but I always go back to printmaking, and I usually go back to relief printing, which is what this image is. It's a reductive lino cut. There she is. It's pretty small. It's like I tend to work either on itty bitty scale in these like very intimate little books or big scale. So this one, I actually started it in April, and then I moved and had to move my whole studio. So my press was taken apart. I had 2 layers done when we moved. And I really thought that it was going to be a pile of paper that was going to end up being scrap paper and that I wouldn't finish the piece, but because I didn't think it would be relevant by October. But I guess we're stuck with it for a while. A lot of the work I've been doing for the past a little over a year, I've been using marquee signs, different ways of advertising. I'm not a big fan of capitalism, so I like using wordplay to make fun of it a little bit. So this one was the first time I've used like a drive-in sign, but I was just thinking about all the things that we can't do right now, things that people miss, and then poking a little bit of fun at everything that's not playing right now. So this one was kind of a less involved piece compared to some of the other things that I do. For a while, I was doing work that was based off of apocalypse theory, and now that's a little too close to home. It's still there a little bit, you know, like it switched from theory about apocalypse and like the interest that humans have had in like how the world is going to end or how community is going to end. And now it's kind of switched to the real things that are bad. A lot of my work in the last year has been focusing on climate change. Now it's focusing on that mixed with social injustice, mixed with anti-capitalism. There's a lot going on. So using signs as a way to, as a vehicle that text can get placed into the work to be some sort of vehicle for satire or wordplay in some way. That all kind of started when I started doing bookmaking. I was very much into zines and short form books for a while, but it was last August, I went to a residency where I could actually access letterpress equipment. So I made books that were using relief processes and text together. And I just fell in love with like actually putting words into the pieces, which I was kind of anti that for a while. And now I flipped myself. So yeah, a lot of my work has changed in the last year. And now, like when Angennette was talking about making work from a place of anger, but then it turns out to be something beautiful, I really resonate with that. Like I feel like my work always has a starkness to it, but I wouldn't say it always has the full scope of my anger represented in the work. So that's me in a nutshell as far as like what my work is. And I was on the committee for the exhibition, so I got to work with Christopher and all of our lovely members on picking the artists from the call for artists and doing the program and kind of laying it all out and seeing it all in the show together. I was just blown away by how all of these different perspectives coming together to talk about the same, if not similar, subjects, I thought was really powerful. I think I make work that is about kind of depressing things, sad things, because I have a little bit of optimism buried deep within me that maybe change can happen. I used to say I was a pessimist, and then my lovely partner said, you wouldn't be making art if you were totally a pessimist because you would just give up. So I think holding out that itty bitty bit of hope is really important, and seeing all the work in the show kind of made it a little bigger. So I was really happy to be involved with the show. Christopher, when he saw my work in February, he's like, you need to be in the show. You got to be in the show. So I was really glad that he pulled me into being more, having more of a participatory part in the exhibition.
It's awesome. I think, it's funny because I can tell that you have that slight bit of hope because it comes through in the humor. Like I don't think if you were so pessimistic, I don't think you'd be able to joke about it. I think that there's that lightheartedness about it. Makes there's that tension there where how grave a situation is. You're pointing that out, but you're also pointing out how ridiculous it is, which I think we've been feeling a lot of that. Like, certainly your piece speaks to that, like how uncertainty is probably the only thing that we are seeing these days, playing over and over again. And it's funny how drive-ins have become so popular. Really, there were like a few that popped up over the summer and tickets were sold out like before you could even you find out about it, and then they were sold out. And I know an organization recently did a fundraiser that was a drive-in. I think they did pretty well. So it's that even is like timely, using the drive-in piece, because I feel like that's very timely for now too.
I don't know if I had fully thought that through when I was making the piece. I was like, this sign looks like it's, I think it all just kind of popped together because I try to take pictures of as many like marquee signs as I see, but I'm also using Google Images, and it just kind of struck me, and then the text came. So like the image started first. Yeah, that little bit of hope. It's everywhere right now, but we got to hang on to it where we can.
Absolutely.
Kristin, can I say something about Edie?
Of course. Yeah.
So I think your piece is like, it seems almost simple, and it's comedic and it's dark and it's hopeful, but there are these other layers to it that I see. Like I see, you're like almost talking or referencing sort of like these derelict traditions in our culture that have been buried practically, and that we're resurrecting because we're needing to connect in a way, and the only way we know how to is almost going like back into our past and remembering things that we used to do that maybe we could do now. Mm-hmm. And so the sign almost looks like dilapidated, and I just think it's just amazing. It's just fabulous. It's just like, it's so rich with symbolism, and yeah, I think there's just definitely more than meets the eye in that. I love to spend time with people's artwork like that, and I spent a lot of time with yours. And I mean, some people might like laugh and go, huh, but I'm like, whoa, there's so much there.
That's good. I mean, nobody wants to be a one-liner, right? Like,
no, it's definitely not a one-liner.
Awesome.
You bring up a good point, Angennette, too, because I think that like thinking back of what in the past, has worked for us that we can bring back, and that era, like in the civil rights movement. And I think there's a lot of, I just read Across the Bridge by John Lewis, and it was one of the best books I've ever read in my life. So hopeful for someone that's seen so much ugliness for so long. This was his last book, I think, before he passed, and just gave a good perspective of how he sees the world today, and wisdom and guidance to younger people that are going to be continuing on the movement. He definitely sees himself as somebody who was following in the footsteps of Martin Luther King Jr. And so it's interesting how, I even recently, a couple of years ago, when after the election 4 years ago, and I was feeling really intense, I took a trip down south and kind of toured around some of the civil rights sites, really wanting to think like, how did we get it right? Like, what did we do that we need to like recreate that magic again? And one of the things I was sharing with Christopher the other day, just one-on-one on a side, one of the things I had noticed was at the Civil Rights Museum was a picture of Mahalia Jackson, and just recognizing her role and the role that music played. And John Lewis talks about this a lot in his book too, about the role that music played and how it really brought everyone together. It lifted people's spirits up. It gave them hope. And so how powerful the arts are, and one, telling stories and humanizing, obviously, right? Like connecting with people and seeing them as human beings, and sharing in that humanity. But then also there's this other side, right, too, with music and how it just brings us together, just the rhythm. I think about how the rhythm and the marching and how, like, oh my gosh, they've been through so much. How do they keep going? And just like following that beat and it just keeping them together in time. It was just really beautiful thing. So I took away from that trip really feeling that the arts were going to be a key piece of how we resurrect this movement, or how create our own movement and move forward. And it'll be a huge part of shaping people's hearts and minds. So I think this festival I was so excited about coming on board to Blackfish and learning about that this festival was being planned, and getting to be a part of it has really been such an honor, because it feels like this is what the world needs now more than ever. So with that being said, we're going to move on to Olivia Aubry, who is a musician, and we'd love to hear more about your upcoming performance and your music.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for having me. And very similar to Christopher, it's our second performance, since COVID hit. So it was really special to be able to come out and record as a full band. But my project is called Olivia Aubry. I've been a solo musician and have been leading bands for about 10 years. And so, yeah, it's been a large part of my life. And in college, I've been writing songs since I was about 16. But in college is when I started playing in bands. I was in Eugene. And so I was playing in bands while I was also simultaneously learning a lot about political folk music, especially of the 1960s and the Red Scare and that kind of thing. I got really interested in radical labor movement folk music, like Phil Oakes and Woody Guthrie, and you name it. I was definitely a folkie for a long time, and I think I definitely still consider myself to really live in the folk world, because I've always loved storytelling. I studied history and women and gender studies in college, and liked to weave together, just either in classwork or in my own writing, really to weave together stories on gender and sexuality and feminism, and to always kind of have a little bit of that framework along with interest in the labor movement, really like feeding a lot of why I've written and why I've done songwriting for so long. So that's just kind of my background. More recently, my bandmates and I kind of decided to really like head down the rock route. So we're, I think you could call us like a political rock band or folk rock band. But it's pretty heavy sometimes. We have a couple songs that are thrashers and a couple songs that aren't, that are still really folky in nature. But playing around with song structure and the way that you tell a story is something that I really focused on when writing the album Dishonorable Harvest, which came out earlier this year. And is the album where we play most of our songs off of, that we'll play for this set. But yeah, like Christopher said, we had a pretty big year planned as a band, and personally, I had been working on Dishonorable Harvest for about 2.5 years. Kind of like to think about it like a mini master's program that I put myself in. I was a social worker in Portland, and would work during the day, and at night I'd be writing these songs and we'd be rehearsing, and eventually we had enough material to record an album, to record a new album. And simultaneously I got a little bit lucky enough. I was swept up into some rock scenes in Portland, but also in London, and kind of had a year where I was working and traveling to the UK to play as often as I could. And I ended up meeting the guitar player from My Bloody Valentine and a couple of other artists who I have just loved for a really long time. Kind of just fell into meeting them, and they all agreed to kind of work on this album with me. So it was a really special album that a lot of time and love and energy went into, and I think for this festival really touch on a lot of themes that seems like everybody cares about, and something that I care about a lot and write a lot about, because I do find it difficult to write without thinking of politics in the way that kind of a political body, like a national political body, impacts communities. And the album Dishonorable Harvest came about, I think, as I was kind of stepping away from folk music and playing around with song structure. I really wanted to explore themes around queerness and ecology, and how do we relate? How does politics relate to kind of natural progressions? How do social movements and social revolutions relate to the natural world? And that's something that I play around with a lot in my lyrics, in terms of, I have a song called Advanced State of Decay that I learned about because I was taking an ecology course. But I found it to really apply to the way that, social movements come about too. It's like there's this breaking point where, people have had enough. And things do start to decay in a way that is progress. And I know that's a kind of convoluted and maybe controversial thing to say, but anyway, I've just always been fascinated in social movements and how the art plays into that. So I think, I was so happy to be a part of this festival, and yeah, I don't know, I could go on and on, but yeah.
So much for sharing. Well, we're really excited to hear your performance this Friday night, and you can catch Olivia's performance and Christopher and Suzanne's and the rest of Bug Toast's this Friday. We'll premiere it on our website, blackfish.com, so tune in at 7:30 p.m. And they will stay up on our website and on our YouTube indefinitely. So if you miss it for the premiere, no worries. Come back when you've got time to catch it. Or if you love the performance and we're like, yeah, I got to let everybody know about how awesome that performance was, it'll still be up to share with your friends and family and let them know about the festival. We are also, we're very fortunate to have some generous donors that have contributed to our fundraiser that we're doing. We've got a GoFundMe going, and we're really looking to you all for your support to help us close the fundraising gap that we have. We have a $5,000 goal. So if you can do anything you can, go on over to our GoFundMe and make a donation. We've got some great perks for you, including some CDs and music from people that are featured here in this interview. So go check that out. You can find the link on our website. And I think just for closing, it's been so great talking with you all. I think just in closing, it'd be great to just hear from you all, and Christopher, obviously, maybe you could talk a little bit more about the inspiration behind the show and coming about with the name of Be About Love and the Love Politik, maybe where you landed on that. But just for the other artists too, like what drew you to be part of the show? What attracted you to be part of the show? And the other thing is, this is a conversation we're trying to engage with the people watching here. So what would you want them to get out of this experience from coming and seeing your work and hearing you play? How about Christopher? We'll have you start. Christopher and Susanne.
Okay. Well, the Be About Love, it's a song that I wrote, and it's an album, and it was a benefit concert that we did for the Immigrant and Refugee Community Organization with some of the two of the other singer-songwriters whose performance is now on our website, Stephen Cohen and Nicole Campbell, along with the beautiful poet Alberto Moreno. We ended that night all saying that this was powerful for us to do something as artists for such a positive cause, for an organization that is doing such positive work for marginalized and people. And so this festival really, and the art exhibit is kind of we all ended that night saying we need to do more. So this is a delivering of that desire. Now we have a bigger group of artists and performers and of all kinds. So, but I think Be About Love for me though is also a mantra. And it's something that, a mantra is something to say over and over and over again. And I use it as kind of a meditation if I'm feeling agitated or centered or angry or impatient, something where I'm feeling a little off. I can just breathe and say that, and it's really nice, and it's a positive that crosses all boundaries that I think is just really needed in the world. And as you all have very eloquently talked about, the power of positive message and feeling empowered by being a part of something with so many people. I feel empowered. I feel like I feel stronger. I feel like emboldened by all of you and everybody who's participating in this. And, it's like casting a big stone into the water and we're having a bigger ripple effect. It's contagious. And I just am so grateful to everyone. This is not one person doing work. It's a whole team. It's everybody. It's just connecting and everybody doing their part. It's beautiful.
Absolutely. It's interesting too, because, these feelings of of aggression or just wanting or frustration or tension in the country. And I think a lot of us are tired and exhausted and angry, and it's a natural feeling to want to push back. And I think what's great about this show is like talking about how we push back. And if we push back in love, and that's a different reaction, we're going to get a different reaction instead of creating a war. Like you said, love is contagious. Maybe we can put something better out there and change the narrative. And I love that. It's really beautiful. Yeah. Awesome.
Well, I was drawn to participating in the show because I find myself asking one question over and over and over again. So I kind of ruminate. I'm one of those ruminators. Like I just like, I like think about things over and over and over again. And the question that I always ask when I hear something about injustice, or when I hear something that's sort of like opposite of how I would like the world to be, I always ask the question, I hear other people ask it too, well, what can I do? Right? The way that I answer that, it's like, well, like you're one voice. So you need to find alliances with other like-minded people. And my tribe are the artists, and so it's like, oh my gosh, my tribe is doing something. If I like join this movement, I can, it's like an alliance, and I feel like our voices can be amplified through alliances, through all sorts of alliances. And it's like, okay, well, I have all these things that I want to say, and I'm going to say them through my art because I'm an artist. I'm not a politician. I'm not someone on the media. This is how I can speak, and maybe be heard. And so I feel like it's an alliance, and it's an alliance of love, which is the perfect language. And you could reach so many more people through it versus, versus other forms of alliance. I'm not saying that those other forms don't work. Sometimes they're necessary. But this is the one that suits my voice best. So it's just a wonderful opportunity to be part of this alliance. So thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us.
I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to eloquently say what is jumbling around in my head, but I'll try. I think that love and positivity and like bringing somebody into something can look different. At times it can look like opposition and criticism and calling people in or out, whichever way you want to say that. And I think that is done out of love and hope, because it takes a lot of emotional energy and intellectual energy to have conversations, either if they're in person or if they are through art, music, anything like that. I think that energy is coming from a place of love, even though it might not to some people look like it's loving. I think I see it as that. And I think that all of the artists in the show, all of the musicians and poets are all doing that in, whichever way it shows up in their work. And I definitely wanted to be a part of the show because that's what I think of in my work, is that I'm not coming, even though I might be angry a lot of the times that I'm making the work, it's not coming from a place of hate. So I hope that came out the way I wanted to. I'll watch the recording later and see.
I think it's true. I think that, was that phrase, clear is kind, you know, and the idea that saying what you need to say and is really the kindest thing. Being, I think also the fact that you even care to try to engage people and talk with them and hear them out. I think a lot of it too begins with just listening to each other, and giving them the respect of that you see them as a human being, that you aren't just going to write them off as an other, you know, or that you don't agree. And but I think that's the thing, is that when we start to enter in and connect with each other and even call each other out or have those hard conversations, we may realize that we actually have more that we agree on than we realize, you know, and there's other forces that are just trying to make us seem like we're so different or pit each other against each other for their own agenda, you know, and we're all just kind of getting suckered in. And how can we draw each other close? And I think challenging each other is an important thing. It's an important way that we grow. So I see that, Edie, coming from you, especially with your work, how it does have the tendency to do that. It just cut right through with your message.
Yeah, to kind of add to that too, I would say like a lot of my songwriting is kind of like I'm trying to be a bit of an agitator. But that's because I think that it pushes people to think about things, hopefully in a different way, or in a way that they just haven't thought before. And so one thing that drew me to this festival, similar to what Edie said, is you know, hoping to open up those conversations and to open up the opportunity to sit in discomfort, because I think it's such an uncomfortable time, and one of the only ways to really understand what we're going through, particularly as a country, is to really sit in discomfort, because a lot of the dialogue that we need to have is really hard. And so I think it's great to do that from a place of love. And I think that, very similar to what Edie said, I think that love can not quite, or, you know, at first glance be seen as loving, even though, you know, like I'd have a hard conversation with a friend who I love very much because I want to keep them as a friend. But it sometimes looks like, you know, something else. And so I hope that people are pushed into places where they can think about those things. If it's, you know, about racism in the country, or kind of the economic disruption and recession that we've had and that we're in. It's like art is such a great breeding ground to sit with those things. And I think as artists, we all just do that anyways. That's why we make art. We can't not do it, right? So it's such a great time to invite people to those conversations. And I hope too, with the music performance, that people just have fun, because one of the things about live music is just, like you said, like John Lewis said, getting people together, getting butts in a room and enjoying moving around together. And I think that that's a thing that definitely people are missing. It's a great time to really be banding together, and it's one of the reasons why live music is so special. So I hope that people can take away some fun and also some thinking and sitting with the hard questions that we have to ask.
Absolutely. I think that when we originally had this plan, it was all supposed to be like a big party in the gallery, and
yeah.
we had to come together and celebrate together, regardless of whatever happens with the election, you know, and feel empowered and just feel the love and unity that's here. And so it's a little anticlimactic having it all happen at home from our screens, but still that spirit is there. And so we're so grateful for you all infusing that spirit of love into your work so that we could share it with our viewers. And I do think that one thing that's great about art is that you can have these conversations that there's something less intense about it when like you come to the gallery, you know, it's a great opportunity for you to come to the gallery with maybe a relative or a friend that is a little different than you or has different views that you love dearly, but these are kind of hard conversations to have. And there's something magical that happens when you are in front of art and it becomes objective, right? You're both looking at it together instead of having this like argument, like tit for tat over facts and I don't know, spewing things. It really makes you stop and really think and ruminate. Um, so I think that we really hope that you use this gallery space. We actually decided to extend the show all the way till November. So we invite you to come into the space, bring friends, bring family, people that you may be wanting to have those hard conversations with. This is a great space to have that dialogue. Maybe you've got students that you want to send down here to come check out the show and then talk about it in your class. That's another great way to use the space. This really is a community space. So we really invite you to come down and use it. You can, and we have also, if you are not feeling comfortable coming down in person, you could see the show. We've got this Matterport 3D tour that you can take and you can see all the art up a little bit closer. So we invite you to take advantage of that and continuing to share the love and spread the word about the Be About Love Festival and the exhibition. So thank you all so much for your time. Really enjoyed hearing more about your work and thank you for being part of this really incredible exhibition. Suzanne.
What I wanted to say about the show and the music is, Olivia, you were talking a bit about the folk music of like the 60s and also the early 70s. Like when I was a kid, there was a lot in pop music about love and, you know, all we need is love and what the world needs now is love. And so I think that we're just carrying on that tradition, but like that balance really needs to be balanced out. So I'm happy to be part of it.
Awesome.
I got to have a front row seat to all of the acts that were filmed in the gallery. I feel you all should be extremely jealous. You've both been starving for live music, and I got to experience it.
Hey, we're all
alongside our wonderful, David Barth is our videographer, and he's from Lost Productions, and he has filmed the majority of our performances. You know, this was going to be a live performance in a live festival in our gallery. That's a wonderful performance space, and we can have, you know, up to 90 people there. Well, look what's happened with just the singer, the songwriter, and poets. I was looking this morning. There were already 200, almost 230 views of that performance. So we've already that's maybe the sort of the silver lining of COVID is how it can be really widespread. We have, you know, people and loved ones in Europe who've already experienced it and wrote, say, hey, we saw that, it was so great. And it's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm reaching out.
Well, anyway, you are really in for a treat with Olivia's band. I was singing Advanced State of Decay all the way home in the car late that night. I love that. So good. And just all of the variety of Olivia's music. You know, you can really sense that folk singer songwriter tradition, and then they really rock it out into some indie rock. Yeah, it gets the blood boiling. And her lyrics, you know, she could have read at the Songwriters and Poets as one of the poets. Her lyrics are just so beautiful, and then it's set to this amazing music. Just a really gifted writer and performer. Thank you, Olivia.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, thank you, everybody. Go check it out this Friday, 7:30 p.m. as the premiere on blackfish.com. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.